Hey guys, today I want to talk about tenant screening. Okay, so for those of you who know me, I like to write out all my processes, and then those processes are prioritized, okay, by what's the most important. And when I'm asked what's the most important process in all of property management, I answer applicant screening. And it's a difficult statement to make because all the processes are important. You know, if they weren't important, we wouldn't do them. I would just delete them. But I think the applicant screening is the easiest process to rush through because there's a lot of pressure to get someone in the unit, and it has the most consequences down the line. So it's the one thing that if you do it perfectly, it prevents a lot of problems, like pretty much all problems that could come up in property management on the people side of things is in applicant screening. Okay, now I have an article on this. It's 12 pages long, and I'll link to it below this video, but I do not want to just sit here and read this all to you. So I just want to talk about some of the big takeaways from this article, best practices for applicant screening, okay? What you definitely do not want to do when screening an applicant is hurry the process, skip a step, or start to kind of waver on your set policies. Okay, so the most important thing that you're going to do is set your minimum requirements for what is required to move into to rent your property, okay? And then when an application comes through, it either meets those requirements or it doesn't. And you do not waver at all under any circumstances from those requirements, okay? And I wrote here, like, what are the qualities of a great tenant, okay? And if someone, you know, if you were asked that question, you might answer, well, you know, someone who's clean cut, quiet, you know, takes care of the property, professional, you know, maybe graduate students. Like, you're getting into kind of shaky ground there because none of those things are directly discriminatory, but they're not, you can't measure any of them, and you can't just run an application that says someone's quiet and professional. So the correct answer is the qualities of a great tenant are the qualities of a person who meet or exceed my minimum requirements and adhere to the lease terms throughout their tenancy. That's the answer, okay? So it has nothing to do with their personality. You don't even have to like your tenants at all. Like, you guys don't have to hang out. You probably shouldn't. I mean, you should definitely never hang out with your tenants, but it doesn't matter at all who they are, what they're into, as long as they make enough money and they follow the lease terms throughout the tenancy, okay? So when you set your minimum requirements, you need to be strict enough to avoid unnecessary risk, but not so strict that no one could qualify to live in your property, okay? So it has to be somewhere in the middle that people can actually rent your property without putting you at unnecessary risk. Okay, so basic criteria would be gross household income must be equal to or greater than 2.5 times rent. In aggressive markets, we have increased this to 3 times rent. Income verification is always required. And what forms of income verification will you accept? We accept the last 2 months of pay stubs, offer letter from an employer HR department, or a bank statement showing 2.5 times total rent of the lease term. So for example, someone's just moving here, let's say a couple, and one of them has a job, the other one will be looking for a job, and with that one job, they don't quite have enough income, but they have savings that will make up the difference. So if it's a 6-month lease, they need to have 2.5 times the rent in savings for that entire 6 months, okay? And then minimum credit score, what kind of, you know, and then I have a whole scale here as to what's gonna change in terms of security deposit depending on credit score, what criminal record will you allow or not allow, and under what circumstances. In the city of Seattle, it's worth noting you cannot discriminate against anyone with a criminal history whatsoever. So, and then this is also a good place to disclose your pet policy and utility billing policies. But the point is that every single thing you want to have written so that you can always point back to your policy and never have to question it under pressure, under the gun. Okay, last thing I want to talk about, again, this is like going all the way to the end, is denying an applicant. If an applicant doesn't meet your minimum requirement or your minimum criteria, then you decline them. They're denied. They're not going to live in there. If you do that, you have to provide an adverse action letter. Okay, But if you offer them a lease term Like let's say, hey, you're approved, I need you to start the lease in 7 days, and they're like, no, we don't want to, we want to start in 20 days, can you hold the unit for us? And you say no, you didn't deny them. They declined your offer for the lease terms. So you don't have to do anything. You approve them. Okay, you don't have to refund them their application fee, you don't have to do anything. You approve their application, they declined your offer. So that's really important because people get confused on that. Just because the deal didn't go through doesn't mean that was your fault. They didn't want to do the deal. Okay, so those are some of the best practices, and there's actually more best practices in here, but this video is getting kind of long, so I want to cut it here. Again, check out the article for all of that, and if you have any questions whatsoever, you should be able to find my phone number here. Shoot me a call.